All right, SpaceX and Elon Musk are looking to be the first trillionaire in U.S. and world history on the back of his bloated IPO offering. IPO being initial public offering of SpaceX going onto the stock market. And the reason I say it's bloated is it's the largest IPO in history at 75 billion, uh, with a 1.7 trillion dollar evaluation. I don't know who did this evaluation. I believe it's done by them producing their initial statements, like how you're going to produce statements every quarter to show profit and loss on the market. They're going to do that to the Regulation Bureau, and then they do an evaluation. I think this is massively bloated for what they're doing. The only money that they have coming in is from government contracts, which granted they get a lot of them, uh, but have provided nothing in the meantime. So they've launched a few rockets into space. They have Starlink, which is maybe 5%, maybe 10% of the market share of people using the internet. And somehow they have more than Saudi Aramco, which is the largest supplier of oil to the world, that did an IPO in 2019 when they already had a large market share. Meta in 2012 when they had over 80% of the market share, 95% of all social media in the US. I'm not sure what the worldwide is, but and then higher than Visa, which held almost 40% of the US market and 60% of the credit card by volume. So they've decided that they're larger than Visa, Meta, and Saudi Aramco combined. And even that, let me do a little calculation here. 18, 16, 26. So they're still $15,000 behind. So you could even throw in Enel, or you could throw in a second Meta, and basically you could do two Meta IPO offerings. That would be a little bit over what SpaceX is capping for their forecasted IPO. And so that's what I say. That's what I mean when I say it's overblown, because that's just a ridiculous amount of money. And the other piece of it is they actually got fast tracked. So normally it takes a full 12 months for a company to be able to be indexed in the index fund, which means that every retirement that uses an index fund has to buy into that company as part of the group of companies that are in the index, right? Because index funds are a bunch of companies all rolled into one. And this basically makes them part of that role. Uh, so by having them in there, that means they're going to sell way more shares than they ever should have, because they're going to have to be bought, and they're going to be in pretty much everybody's retirement fund, which I think is going to be disastrous because they're going to come in over bloated, overpriced, get into everybody's retirement fund. The market is going to see that they're really not doing anything out of the gate. They don't have much market share. They're not doing much. And then it's going to tank. And that means that everybody's retirement fund is basically going to prop up this um, company that's not churning out anything productive for society. Uh, so once again, something that happens a lot is they are privatizing the gains. Elon Musk is directly benefiting from this IPO, becoming the first trillionaire. He's going to be able to sell off a bunch of stock, get a bunch of money, cash out before this goes belly up. And then they are publicizing, quite literally, by putting it into your retirement accounts, the losses, so that we all take the losses. The people who are making the money, the trillionaires, billionaires, and oligarchs at the top, including Elon Musk, Trump, the Trump family that's getting absolutely wealthy off of this kind of stuff, are all making large amounts of money while then throwing the loss back onto the public. In this case, forcibly by putting it into the index fund. So, um, something else to think of. Last year, when they were putting out their net profits, they had a $4.9 billion loss in profit. So they're coming in at a loss already, and they're one of the biggest IPOs ever. I can't even imagine what makes them think that this $1 trillion+ evaluation of the company makes any sense, given that they run completely off of welfare from the state, and they've lost money for the last, I believe it was 3 years, and then they deserve to have the largest IPO. It's just absolutely insane concept. So let's look at a little bit of what CNBC has to say about this. You can see Bloomberg down here taking the same tact I am.
And Jim Cramer now. He's the host of CNBC's Mad Money, of course. Jim, the stocks at the highs of the day.
Look, this was beautifully done. It was an A+. Everybody involved did a terrific job. The two book runners, retail for Morgan Stanley, institutional for Goldman, they're superb. I've not seen a deal done as well as this one that I can recall. I'm sure, obviously, Elon Musk had a great deal to do with it. That would be wrong not to say that, but really perfect, Kelly. It's just a fantastic job. I've said that I thought it could go up to 2.5 trillion. It might do that, but you got in at a good price. People who want to buy more, who got in, are going to have a very good average. It's really just very well done.
You know what I was struck by, Jim? And CNBC, again, I feel like I'm giving out too many shout-outs today, but they have this great piece talking to a lot of retail investors in the IPO. And the hilarious part of it was almost all of the retail investors acknowledged, yeah, it's probably overvalued in the short run. Yeah, the valuation is high, but they all had this sense of kind of wanting a piece of this for the long run.
The idea that you'd want to buy high for the long run is insane. What you want to do is wait until it pops, drops down, then you buy in, so you have your immediate gains, and then you also have your long-term potential gains, because they are running off of government contracts, so they're likely to get them until they get cut out by a future president, potentially. But the idea that you want to buy during a bubble to get long-term gains is like saying that you wanted to get into Enron right before the dot-com bubble popped. It's absolutely insane. It's how people end up jumping out windows, okay? Not the thing you want to do. The idea that they put this on CNBC as investment advice, I mean, if you've seen Cramer before, the guy's a hack. He's horrible at his job. He's predicted the market wrong so many times, but it doesn't matter because he just keeps throwing shit at the wall. So these people are really shilling for it. They even admit that it's over bloated, and yet still say you should buy in. You, the sucker, should listen to me and go buy this company, even though I know and I'm telling you it's overvalued. Calling this a great deal because it's an overevaluated POS is insane. All it means is that they're lying to the public about what the valuation is. And we've known this for a while, because if you look at the markets with gas prices, they've hedged towards the war in Iran ending and gas prices going down every step of the way, even though every indication is that the war would continue and gas prices would shoot way up. I think we're still underevaluated on gas prices as well, because we're burning through our national reserve. Once that's up, we're going to have actual national shortages, not just price increases. You won't be able to get the gas in. And when that kind of thing happens, you're going to see the market shoot way up to overcorrect for the fact that they have not been accounting for us having these shortages. And something to note about that too, even if we do this and end the war and the Strait of Hormuz opens, we've bombed a bunch of their facilities. They can't get gas out fast enough, and they're not even going to have the ships ready or anything moving through. Not to mention those ships move at ridiculously slow speed, which means none of them are even going to reach their destination until maybe a month or two after. If you remember, the last ship that came into California came in like a month and a half after the war started. That gives you an indication of how long it takes them to get from the Strait of Hormuz to the US. And that's how long the first ship would take to come across as well after the delay. So the idea that the market is very sensible and looking at this rationally is just It doesn't bear out with what we've seen with the war in Iran or with this IP.
I know there's also a lot of people who just wanted to be in for the first day IPO pop. So we'll see whether they can kind of hang on for the longer term. Because can you
I
imagine
wouldn't
what
be
this
surprised
company's
if the people
quarterly
who
results
actually
are going
get
to be
rich off
like?
this are
And
the
Gwynne
ones who
Shotwell
short it
talked to Morgan about this. They
when the
don't
bubble
care.
pops
That thing could be
that
up,
first
down
day.
80%. It's going to be a mess, right? For a long time.
Yeah,
So,
well, but that's okay. You can buy more. My friend Brett Gersher said a lot of really good things about what the actual.
Yeah, it's always buy more. It's always buy more, buy more. Don't ever sell it if it's over evaluated and look to buy it when it's cheaper. No, no, no. Buy more and then when it drops lower, buy even more. Why not? You have unlimited money to just spend.
Deal means. I feel like that in some ways we're losing everywhere against the Chinese, or at least the press makes us feel like it. But we're not losing in space. We're not losing in space because Elon Musk has a vision. You're allowed to buy a piece of what Elon Musk is doing. I'm very proud. I think that at a certain point I'd like to have it.
And I think that hits the nail on the head. He says he likes the vision of what he's doing. He doesn't think that he actually has a good business plan. Notice that he never points to the numbers. He never points to the evaluation. He never points to their actual profits. He never points to anything substantive that they've actually provided. He just says he has a vision that we're going to go to Mars, just like he had a vision that we're going to um, do the hyperlink train under California. But what happened with the hyperlink train? It never materialized. And what it ended up being is he wanted to sync the project in California where they were going to do a train system that would have connected the major metropolitan areas under LA because it would have hurt Tesla stocks because people wouldn't have been able to, wouldn't have had to use so many cars to get around. They would have had better public infrastructure. And he came in, lied about being able to do that, never delivered on it, and we're just seeing that again. Tesla stock was overvaluated for the longest time. I think it still is. And then he has lied and underdelivered on so many projects, and this is just the latest of it. And Kramer is eating it up because he has a political agenda to push. It's not actually about the numbers. If it was about the numbers, he would be pointing to the numbers. He'd be pointing to the reasons why he thinks this stock is worth buying. But he can't do it. All he can do is gesture vaguely towards the stars. In this case, quite literally.
For my charitable trust, I talk about it, so I can't. But Kelly, sometimes deals are done and they really pop just as much as they should, and they attract people. It's not outrageous. It's not Cerebrus. It's not Figma. It's just a very good deal, very well priced, and people who want to buy it, I think, should absolutely go do it. So there's nothing embarrassing about it. There's always a couple of people who are they're kind of house bears, and you can dig them up, and they're going to come up with a lot of negative things. But I've been seeing that since I got in. I walked down Wall Street 44 years ago when the Dow was at about 1,000, and the same naysayers, some of them are still around, but we got new naysayers. They kind of do the same thing, and they've kept people from being wealthy, and their jobs, the people who have the regular jobs, that would never make them wealthy. And I feel like we should want to encourage wealth, and this one is all.
The idea that 40 years ago we had more regular people being wealthy is just not borne out. If you look at the split, the reason they talk about a K-shaped economy is because wealthier people have been getting exponentially wealthier and everyone else has been getting poorer. Uh, so the idea that, oh yeah, we've just had so much help. He's talking about right after the depression. Of course the market went up after the fucking depression. But has it helped overall year over year for the last 40 years regular people? I would say not, where there's less access to healthcare than there has been. Housing is less affordable. Um, Younger generations are just not able to attain the same level of financial freedom that their older generation counterparts have been able to attain, and the market outlook is lower because we're seeing higher inflation that's going uncontrolled, lower job numbers. They're holding unemployment at 4 point something percent, and then you look at underemployment and people who are employed but not within the same pay structure that they should be given their uh, academic and career achievements, and we're not keeping up with what we should be financially, as which is why you start seeing this K-shaped split.
only going to make people a lot of money.
Do you think, though, Jim, that people are going to have to think really long term about, when
Like,
you
I
buy
think when
it
you
at
look
two,
at this
2.5?
guy, when you look at Kramer, you need to see somebody who is a political actor first and foremost. He gets his political decisions on how he wants to push the country further right, and he tries to mask it behind finance. It's not actually a logical look at what the financials are doing. It's a blatant political partisan talking head that hides it behind a suit and tie.
And the valuation. I mean, look at Tesla. Its market cap hasn't moved around all that much in recent years. So, buy it, own it, put it away, whatever. But I guess that's what I
Buy
mean.
it, own
I
it,
expect
put
there
it
to be
away,
quite a
and then
lot of
watch it drop to
volatility in the
50
near
bucks a
term.
stock
It might
and
take a while for this one to
lose
really
a
be,
or two-thirds of your money.
a massive wealth builder.
Well, Kelly, the Chinese targeted robots and they targeted cars. And when the PLA and the Chinese government get together, they can really wreck a lot of industries, as many working people in our country know. I think
He says the Chinese can wreck a lot of industries. Why would they wreck the industry? They'd wreck the industry because they do better in that industry. They make them better. They make them cheaper. They make something that more people want to buy. When he says wreck the industry, he means they outcompete the US on the market. All these guys who are I'm pro market, pro free market, and all this stuff. And yet, when they see a Chinese company, especially if you look at like electric vehicles, do better than the US, what do? They put in tariffs that upcharge 100% the cost of the electric vehicle onto the US market. That's something Biden did. Or they just outright ban the sale of EV vehicles from China into the US because we can't compete with them. All these people that say the free market will help decide things are also banning other companies from coming into the free market because they're so scared of them. So,
that Elon
like I
Musk
said,
will not tolerate that. And so therefore, I think that we're going to own space. This is a person who uniquely understands how important owning space is. And I think that I want to be with him. I don't care. And by the way, he has things in his head right now that are probably far more valuable than what we see and just hasn't articulated. That's the same thing that Jensen wants.
This ketamine addict has things far more valuable in his head than we can see. Dude, he's seeing fucking stars or something. I don't know what's in Elon Musk's head, but they ain't valuable ideas for society. I'll tell you that much. They ain't valuable ideas for society. I'll tell you that much.
Another genius did. He had a lot of things in his head that hadn't been fully articulated that have been all coming true. I think there's more to this company than what's in the prospectus. And I think that
where they're saying it's just worth it because he'll figure out a way to make it work. No rationale behind why that is.
I don't know. Personally, I'm proud. Proud to be an American today. I know to be reflective is sound almost silly because we're talking about pieces of paper, but I think this one is more than a piece of paper. I think this reminds me very much of when we landed on the moon, and I realized that we had beaten the Russians. And at that point, I know it sounds hard to believe, but the Russians in the press were supposed to be beating us in everything, in every part of technology. And we won that race, and something changed in our country where we believed that we were superior. We since then, of course, fell back and believed that the Russians were superior again. There's always
I was talking about how we believed we were superior, not that we actually were.
Some people who I guess are supposed to be.
Because when you're talking about the moon landing, we did something. We accomplished something. Here, we're just talking about accomplishing something. We didn't do anything. He just said, this company is worth a lot. So, wow, I feel so proud to be an American. We're really going to push the frontier, except we're not pushing the frontier. We're trading pieces of paper so that billionaires can get
But
rich.
right now, today, we are.
Electricity.
Thank you so much for watching my video. It'd be great if you could leave me a like, subscribe, maybe a comment, and you should be seeing a video pop up anywhere on screen right now that you can click on to get some more content. Thank you again. Have a great day.